Like Brian said, my name is Ray, and I work in technology as an early stage investor. My talk today is titled, What Do Starcraft and Justin Bieber Have in Common? Hopefully, that has piqued your curiosity. Hopefully, you in the audience know what Starcraft and Justin Bieber are. If you don't, no worries, I'll explain what they are. So let's go back a little bit in time. To the next slide. Okay, so a little bit about me. I was born in China in a village, in a rural village actually, about an hour away from Xi'an in Shanxi province. I put up photos of my grandparents, my parents, because I come from a family of engineers. So my grandfather up there went to Harvard. He was one of the first batch of overseas students to study mechanical engineering in the 1930s. And my father got a PhD in electrical engineering. When I immigrated with my family to the US when I was 8, we moved to California. And I ended up in a town called Fremont. For those of you who are familiar with geography, California, it's about an hour away from San Francisco. So it seems like I'm always going to be an hour away from where all the action is, right? And that's where, as you know, the innovation of Silicon Valley and a lot of the brainpower for creative minds come from. I was a very studious Asian kid. I took extra classes, I went to summer school, and I graduated at the top of my class from high school. In 1998, when I was applying to college, I decided to apply to exclusively technical universities. And I was very lucky that I was accepted at UC Berkeley. And that is one of the photos of our beautiful campus. I know, very stunning, right? When I was just trying to decide what to study, I didn't think too much about it. So given that I come from a family, as you know, of engineers, and I grew up in Silicon Valley, and I saw all the things people were doing with computers around me, and I had grown up very familiar with computers, I thought, no brainer, I'm just going to apply for a major called EECS. And that stands for Electrical Engineering Computer Science, as Brian said. Those are the two buildings at Berkeley that house the CS and EE departments. And, as a young freshman in 1988, I was really looking forward to spending the next 4 years of my life in those two buildings. So, and then came my first computer science class. So I didn't keep slides from, college so many years ago. I went online and looked for lecture slides from Introduction to Computer Science, but this is pretty much what I remember. I thought I was really good at math and science, and I had grown up, loving computers. I thought I would also automatically love computer science. But in fact, I really didn't feel any affinity from it, especially in this class. It was a lot of very boring, algorithmic, functions and very abstract ideas they didn't really understand. But I was patient, and I said, okay, well, maybe it will get better. I don't think so. So fast forward next year, my second year, and I'm learning more and more in my classes about computer science. And this is what the lectures look like, right? This is what the assignments look like. It's asking me to make a board game in text, which I think is really, really ugly, first of all. And I don't even like board games. So, you know what I did? I stopped going to class. So I hope my parents are not watching this. But yeah, I really stopped going to class and I stopped paying attention because I was not engaged and did not feel like I was learning anything. But that doesn't mean I was not spending all my time on the computer. I actually was. So this ties up to back to the title of my presentation, which is this is what I was doing on the computer all of the time. I was playing Starcraft. So I think many of the boys in this audience know what this is. Starcraft, for those of you who don't know, was the best-selling PC game of the 1990s and early 2000s. And it's a real-time strategy game. You play online, in competition versus strangers most of the time, or along with your friends. And I literally spent thousands of hours on this game, right? We're talking about thousands of games played. I was obsessed with it. I would dream about, my replays. So, well, why? I mean, and I wasn't the only one, right? Literally, there were people making a living off of Starcraft. Starcraft was one of the first games where people became professional gamers. This is just a Korean team that was a professional gaming team that made money and engaged in worldwide competitions against, the best gamers all over the world for this game. Why was this game so cool? Well, I wasn't the only one who thought it was cool. If you Google online, for the next slide, I learned lots of things from Starcraft, and I wasn't the, smartest person. But if you read what Charlie Cheever, who is an early Facebook millionaire and now the CEO of Quora, which is the U.S.'s version of Zhihu, very, very smart guy, very well-respected thinker and creative thinker, and he said everything I learned in life, I learned from playing Starcraft. What did we learn? We learned a lot of things about strategizing, about competing against people, and about, of course, how to work together in teams. But that's not really the purpose of my talk. But wait a second while I go on to the next part of my story. So that's my Starcraft story. What did I do next? Well, as you know, I didn't go to class, so I didn't learn that much in CS. And I'm actually really surprised Berkeley gave me an engineering degree. But what I ended up doing after I graduated was I went to Wall Street. So this is what people did in the early 2000s when you weren't good enough to be hired by Amazon. You went to work for Morgan Stanley, which is what I did. And after a couple years on Wall Street, maybe because I was feeling the air in California was too clean and the skies were too blue, I decided to move to China. So I moved to China, started off in Shanghai, and one of the things I did when I first arrived in Shanghai was, of course, I wanted to go back and see my childhood hometown, right? So I went back to Shanxi. And what I discovered there was that although a lot of my relatives and my family's relatives had moved out of the village, there were still a lot of people there who were very needy. Still a lot of poverty and a lot of people who needed help, especially youth. So I'm also a big proponent of education, which will become evident by the end of this talk. But my friends and I decided to set up a scholarship in a town called Baihe, which is 5 hours southwest of Xi'an, and we called it a good study. This is a photo from the last trip I took to this school. All the students there are very hardworking. The town is very poor. There's not even a McDonald's or KFC there, and they study until very, very late at night. 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and half the days on Sundays. So seeing that the students were so motivated, we were so touched, and we asked ourselves, what could we do besides just providing them with some financial assistance? Well, just being foreigners, one of the easiest thoughts was, well, why don't we teach them English, right? It's a viable career skill, life skill. We should just, teach them our native language. And that's what we did. We convinced the school principal to let us hold a 2-week summer English camp. And we focused on teaching these kids verbal, oral, spoken English skills. We had 75 kids, all from the 10th grade, so Gaoyi, and they attended our school during their sole 2 weeks of summer vacation. So in this village, they only had 2 weeks of summer vacation between the first and second years of high school, but they chose to attend our camp. And I was really impressed, once again, by their dedication. One of the main feedback that we got when we ended the program, besides all the crying when they saw the teachers leave, was that they never knew English would be so fun. They said they hated English, and actually they didn't sign up for the program willingly. Their English teachers made them. So they didn't know studying English could be so fun and interactive, and they were actually learning more in the 2 weeks that we were there than they had their entire lives that they were studying. And so I took one of the girls aside who was extremely, motivated and kept on asking me what did I think about her majoring in English in college, what I think she could do with such a major. Her name was Shirley. So I took her aside and we had to talk. And she said, if every class was this fun, I would be a lot more motivated and I would be a lot more interested. And we were sitting at her desk, and then I was talking to her, and I just looked down, and I saw this. I don't know if those of you can read it, but it says, Justin Timberlake Bieber, so she wants both of them. You are my dream. And I was like, wow, Shirley, you are just like an American teenager. I didn't even know you knew who Justin Timberlake or Justin Bieber is, given that you live in a town that's never even seen a McDonald's. And you even spell you are my dream just like an American teenager would, with a U and an R. And she said, yeah, actually, if class could be as fun as listening to Justin Bieber songs, I would pay a lot more attention. And I said, yes, that's why you should learn English. What if one day you could meet Justin Bieber? Wouldn't you want to converse with him? If one day, for example, the Chinese internet opened up and you could read his Twitter, wouldn't you want to be able to understand what he says? And she said, that's a really good idea. I should think about that. So, sorry, can't see this over here. So that's basically my key finding when I talked to her and thought back to my days when I was studying in college and I wasn't motivated about what I was studying, which was supposed to be really interesting because I thought I loved computers. But instead, as you know, I didn't follow a career doing computer programming. And this quote, I think, really sums up my core belief and actually scientific findings. You really have to be in love with what you're doing in order to be properly engaged and be creative, right? So how do you find that piece, that one subject area that you love? Well, I went back to the Berkeley EECS website, and I found that, some people have discovered how do you reach kids in a way that they can understand and they would be interested in. And that guy is David Burkett. If you look him up online, he has created a class called Artificial Intelligence, CS 194, that basically allows people to study computer science, not like the lecture slides I was showing before, but like this. Those are screenshots from Starcraft. So the main project that you complete for the class is basically building a computer program that that plays against other computers in the game. And you can learn lots of things from building this program and using a game that a lot of CS students love. You can learn machine learning ideas. You can learn how to optimize for minimums and maximums, et cetera, and et cetera. And I thought, this should have been computer science. If this was my class, I guaranteed you I would have gone. And this is what we call interest-driven learning, right? As you know, I work in technology investing, and this is one of the new trends that's taking place right now in the intersection of technology and education. It's interest-driven. How can we use technology to make education more interesting for everyone? Well, I'm going to give you 3 really quick examples. This is an example of personalized math. Imagine instead of learning mathematical concepts and word problems that have no relevance to what you're interested in, like Sarah and John, running towards each other while a train is speeding by or whatever, imagine learning about something you actually care about. This company is called Mathalicious, and they take real-world problems, and you can pick the ones that interest you. For example, maybe you're a teenage girl, and you're interested in going on a diet. Well, they'll tell you how to use mathematical principles and understand how long it will take for you to burn the calories that you gained from eating that one McDonald's burger. I think that's really cool. There's also personalized reading. This is a company called Nucella. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce it, but they started this year, and basically they try to curate readings for kids and make them curate them by interest so that kids can learn how to read and test their own reading comprehension. They'll algorithmically sort the proper difficulty level, and the kids can learn this way while learning about what they're interested in and improving their reading skills. And I also wanted to give credit to one of my marketing professors. I actually just took his class in January, and his name is Phil Parker. His presentation is also online. He did a TEDx talk in Seattle, and he talked about how we can use big data and how we can use automated computer programs to create textbooks for every individual kid. Imagine a physics textbook that explains to a boy who loves baseball how physics works in baseball. He will probably be much more engaged and be able to learn these concepts without too much prodding from his parents. So anyway, the answer to my question, it might be a little bit cheating, but bear with me while I explain my answer. What do Starcraft and Justin Bieber have in common, right? Actually, they don't have anything in common. There are two different passions from two very, very different individuals, myself and the rural student named Shirley. But they also have everything in common to do with each other because they represent how we could have been accessed, we could have been engaged in school while we learn. And as you know, I truly believe that it's only when you learn what you love, that you can unleash creativity and unleash the ideas within you. So I ask you to sort of think about the implications of this idea, right? Since TEDx is all about ideas. There are 7 billion people in this world. Every one of us is passionate about something. That means we can be creative about that thing that we're passionate about. Imagine if everyone has a chance to learn and to express themselves in that area that they're the area that makes them in love with life. The next Steve Jobs, she could be in Pakistan. She could be in rural China. She could be sitting here in this room. She could be you. So, I really, really hope that you agree with me that there is something to be said about interest-driven learning, and that if we're able to reach our passions, that we can be creative. Thank you.